Everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Reputation Igniter podcast, where we are constantly bringing on industry leaders and experts to help you understand how to better run your HVAC and plumbing companies. I'm really excited about today's guests, Thaddeus and Evan. Thanks, guys, for being on.
No worries. Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to dive in with these guys. Both these gentlemen, they're a bit of a two-headed monster. They kind of come as a pair. I think of like the game, Sticks, whenever you're picking a kid back in grade school. They always come together, and they're an awesome, incredible team. They are co-founders of On Purpose Media. Definitely want to check those guys out there. And then they are also co-hosts of the HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Say that 10 times fast. That's a hard one. But
you'll get sex in the middle of that if you
do. And so they've got some great content there. Definitely willing to tap into that. But my hope is to give you guys a compact, condensed version of the information, the insights inside of their brain today. So if you haven't already, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We definitely want to make sure that you are tuned in and tapped on for all the great stuff that we're going to constantly be pushing your way. And so with that, Thaddeus and Evan, thanks again for being on. Let's jump right into it. What would you say, obviously you guys are running a digital marketing company. What is like the biggest mistake that, somebody, and this could be somebody that you actually onboard as a client, but also maybe somebody that you're just having a conversation with, maybe you're putting together a proposal for. What do you see the baggage that people are bringing to your door? What is typically kind of the biggest mistakes maybe that an HVAC company or a plumbing company is, making when they're kind of knocking?
Oh boy, Pandora's box.
Yeah,
there's a lot. There's a lot of baggage. I mean, I've got like two that come to the top of my mind, right off the bat. Is one's not owning your data and not owning your stuff, and we can extrapolate a little bit on that. And the second one I thought about, and then I remember it, but now I can't remember it again. So that's awesome. Switching away from your marketing company too quickly, and how that's a bad thing for it. And so obviously the latter one is, we see that some of this when they come to us, but I can kind of go deeper on that. So when you look at owning your data, we see this before, and there's a few companies that are out there, and you know what, they probably say, well, read your contract, it's in there. Well, yeah, you should probably read the agreement before you sign up with a marketing company to know what you own and what you don't own. But if you put it this way, let's just go with 2 years that you spend with a marketing company, and they built you a website, they ran Google ads for you, they did Facebook ads for you, and they did all of that in their own account. What happens when you leave them in 2 years? Well, you basically are starting all over from scratch with your data. So now if you have a Google Ads account, for example, and it's in theirs, they're not going to send that over to you and give you access or be able to transfer anything over, et cetera. And there's ways that they can do that too, by the way. Now you're starting over. You're starting from scratch. You have zero data. Now, one could argue, well, you can upload lists, et cetera, and you can reduce the learning curve depending on how much you're spending in a Google Ads account. But again, you're starting over 2 years by, right? Same thing with a website. Do you own your website? And this is kind of less of a concern, although sometimes when you leave them, there goes your website instantly. And it's like, well, now you have nothing online. Now you have no presence. Now there's nothing there. And so I'm being super cautious on that. So when you do make the move, so some companies out there are great too. They're like, yeah, we're switching whatever. Okay, well, who's the new person? We'll send over everything. Right. I even saw it last month. Somebody came and they didn't even own their own Google business profile. Marketing company did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did we do? We're like, well, let's pause adding us to your Google business profile until you get ownership of that Google business profile, and you can remove them from being an owner. You can relegate them down to manager status. Doing that, now they actually they have their power, they have their control, they can do what they need.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're saying there, because I would say, even in my space where I just kind of stick in my swim lane of, focusing on the reviews piece. Yeah. A past employee that they've got bad blood with now, right? Owned it or set it up. Right. And I think what we're facing is we get it, guys, like, and gals, you are busy and you just want somebody to take care of it. But there's just a couple of small things that will help you in the long run, remove yourself from a relationship that's maybe not benefiting you anymore. And so I think that's a great point to just, and the problem is you got to read the contract, because and this is what I've seen is really horrible, right? Is like they will ask the question of the marketing company, do you own your website? Yeah, you own your website. Yeah, okay, well then can I take it with me? Well, you can't take it with you. It's on our proprietary, platform, this, that, and the other thing. And it's just, I mean, I that's why we're always fighting that, sort of when we're coming in the door, we have to fight through that, that bad blood from before and have to rebuild a whole nother relationship. But, I've always stood by, like you guys are talking about, transparency, right? Like, obviously, if we're doing a good enough job, you should be able to look at everything that we're doing and be able to, with a little bit of help, maybe, because some of it is some pretty technical jargon, understand that like we're doing a good thing for you. Things are responding appropriately. And, like there's no cloak, and cloak and dagger going on here kind of thing. So appreciate that. Well, so tell me about switching from an agency, too early. Cause yes, I totally agree. That is one thing that you can do, and you can end up finding yourself just hopping from one relationship to another unnecessarily, just because you're too eager. So yeah, what would you say are kind of maybe some of those components?
Yeah, look, again, you're looking for the silver bullet, right? You're looking, well, why is my marketing working? Why isn't this? Well, maybe it's a new marketing company. Maybe they're the answer to be able to increase my revenue. If you have the right marketing company, you have the right information, you have the right data, you have the right everything going on, you still might blame the marketing company if your operations suck. I'm being straight up here. Like I'm being straight up. Like your operations could suck. How often do you answer the phone? Right? Like that's the other part. So if a marketing company sends you 100 leads, but you can only answer the phone on 25 of them, the other 75 are gone.
Yeah.
You think about
you still paid for them.
You still paid for them, right? I mean, especially PPC, right? You're paying for them, right? Now, SEO, obviously, you can reduce your cost per acquisition quite substantially. But when you come to how often you answer phone, that's an easy one, right? Of the people that you answer, what do you book? Mm-hmm. So now if you change this conversation, say, well, we answer 100% of our calls. Well, now you've just answered 100 calls. If you can book 50% of them, and I'm just using rough numbers to make my math easy so my brain can comprehend it, and I can use different ones. But like if you book 50%, well, now you've got 50 calls on the board. But if you go with the previous example, if you're only answering 25, but you're only booking 50%, well, that's 12 and a half calls. You see the difference? So sometimes the marketing companies are the scapegoat, but getting transparent data from them is also a good thing to be able to say, okay, what's actually happening?
Well, that's what I think it comes down to is expectations. Yeah. Right? Not setting them, I think, is a big mistake that a lot of companies make on both sides, the marketing company and the home service company. Not having proper expectations up front leads to failure because if there's no actual understanding of what it is that's expected of us as a marketer, well, we think we're doing a great job. You think we're doing dog shit. Right? And vice versa. Right? We might think we're doing a great job providing all the leads, but you're only answering 40% of your calls, like Thad just said. Well, there's a false expectation there as to what the reality is going to end up being. And that's really where the other mistake of what kind of a relationship are you looking for with your marketer? Are you looking for just another vendor that's just providing a service, getting your phone to ring? Or are you looking for someone that's actually going to be a true partner in your business? Someone who's going to work alongside you and provide feedback and information to help you grow your business, regardless if it's leads coming from them or from Home Advisor or Thumbtack or Angie's List or the Yellow Pages or a billboard, wherever those leads are coming from. If they're providing you with honest feedback about how your CSRs are answering the calls, about how you're only actually running 40% of the calls that you book because you're booking them too far in advance, or there's not enough communication between the office and the technician and the homeowner. So now if there's a lack of communication there, there's a lack of transparency there, customers are canceling, they're falling off the board. If your run rate's really low, well, that's a problem, right? So all the different stages through the funnel need to be communicated back and forth between the two sides so that you can diagnose properly what it is that's happening and where the leaks are.
Yeah. Well, and Evan, I like what you're saying too, because there's waiting for your marketing companies, optimization of, their pay-per-click ads, which, could take you 45 to 90 days just to kind of get things dialed in, right? SEO, we all know, takes at least 6 months to really start to gain some serious traction, right? So I think there's the obvious like technical aspect, but I think you're hitting on some great points about, look, it needs to be a partnership like that. I guess that's the other thing we're saying. It needs to be a partnership, right? You do not want a vendor of a marketing service, because there's also optimization on the operations side, right? So that you, like you're saying, there's got to be this constant dialogue. It shouldn't be like, hey, you send them the SEO report that nobody can understand because it's Greek and hieroglyphics, right? At the end of the month, to be like, yeah, man, we totally knocked it out of the park. And you're sitting there going like, my business is actually less profitable because I'm paying you guys and I didn't see any increase in leads, right?
Yeah. Job board's empty. So that's the problem, right?
Yeah. You're like, there's a lot of stuff on this, but there's nothing on that. So I don't know. There's a disconnect. So that's a great point.
Correct.
I like it. What would you guys say? Like, let's say, maybe simplified path forward, right? Because maybe there's some listeners who are like, oh shoot, that's me. I don't own my data. I'm screwed. Or, what do I do now? Right. Or shoot, I do think I'm in a vendor relationship. How do I get into a partnership? Maybe if, like, what would you say are kind of my best practices to kind of rectify a situation like that?
Well, I'll call On Purpose Media. No,
I'm
kidding.
Shameless plug.
I'm kidding. Shameless plug. I couldn't resist. Hopefully that was allowed. But really, like, you look at your data, right? Okay. Well, the easiest way that you can look at that is just start having the conversations with the marketing companies. Like, hey, I was looking at my PPC. I was looking at this. I was looking at this. I was wondering. Start asking those questions. And if you look to move marketing companies, the marketing company, the other part too, and I mentioned that, a month ago, right? We paused bringing him on board onto our business for a month while we gave him the strategy to say, hey, you know what? I was looking at this. I was just wondering if we could get access. I was looking at this. I was just wondering if we could get access, and making sure that they have ownership access. Right now, if they say no, well, there's a red flag, right? But putting in a plan in place to find a marketing company and ask them that, and obviously read the terms and conditions to understand if that is the case. But then starting those conversations in advance before you make the move and before you tell them no, like, I'm gone and I've switched to somebody else, and now you're like, no.
Well, and even if you're happy with them and you don't want to change, it's still important that you have ownership over it, because again, it's your business. Your reputation is at stake, not the marketing companies. Right. So you need to have ownership over all of your online pieces of data that exist out there. If you don't, you are at risk. Right. And it's one of the most important things about investing, whether it's in the markets or in business, is risk mitigation. This is just taking ownership over your business. And I think that's the big part too with the partner vendor relationship, is just taking ownership over it. Right. Understanding that this is your baby. You're the one that's trying to feed your family. You're the one that's trying to feed the families of all of your staff. So why wouldn't you have ownership over the marketing? You don't have to understand how it's all done, but you do need to understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. Yeah. And it needs to be more than just getting the phone to ring.
Yeah. Well, and I think I like what you said, Thaddeus, about, it's more of like a slow play, right? Because I think a lot of people, please don't be on the phone with your marketing company right now telling you you're going to fire them. Like, that's not the point, right? Like, what we're telling you right now is like, hey, take an overall assessment of where you stand. Do you have ownership? Do you have access to your pay-per-click? Can you actually look at it, right? And again, because your relationship might not be sour. Now, you might have heard some of these things and had some serious concerns about your marketing company, but sometimes they do it. They have strategic reasons, or at least they'll tell you, right? For us, obviously, all of us sitting here, that's not how we roll our businesses or agencies. But that being said, it's much easier for you to go, hey, I noticed this. I was wondering, can I get access to my Google business profile? Hey, I noticed I'm a manager and not an owner. That seems kind of funny to me because I own my business, right? And just in a way, even if it takes a month or 2 months or even 90 days to kind of figure some of this stuff out, it's way better to actually have all that access, right? Even if you're talking to, a Thaddius and an Evan, right? To kind of work your way towards owning these things, because on the back end, you're gonna have so much more. You're gonna be so much further ahead in those sort of situations, right?
Well, and here's the other thing: if you don't know how to find that, just reach out, guys. Like, we'll have a conversation with you. We can show you exactly in screen share, regardless if you even want to, like, it doesn't matter. We'll do it, right? We'll help you out. It's a value first play here.
Yeah. And sometimes you just need to know what you're looking at, right? Or where to click over, right? And Google's changing all the time, especially the ads platform. Goodness, that thing is just, and they hide the buttons you need and all that kind of stuff, right? But to that point, there's no reason souring that relationship, because if you go in there and you kick the hornet's nest, what they're going to do is they're going to dig their heels in. They're going to really start to own the fact that they own your data, and you're going to be in a really bad situation. And so having that relationship where you can start to get that information is just going to set you up. And then, Evan, to what you were talking about, right, is if they're on your team, and you're going to find out real quickly if they're a partner, right? Because they're going to say, yeah, actually, shoot, like let's jump into that together. Let me educate you a little bit. Here's what you're actually looking at when you're jumping into your pay-per-click, right? So, I mean, they should be willing and wanting to do that, because there's obviously still a huge gap in knowledge between how to actually optimize and put all that stuff in a process and actually doing the work versus just knowing what it is and what you're looking at, right? And so I think you'll find out if you got a vendor relationship or a partner relationship. And sometimes you might have just been relegated to like a vendor level relationship simply because you're not squeaking, you're not asking questions, you're not emailing them, right? And so it might be your opportunity, right, to like start to build that relationship or kick that off. So like it, great stuff. Yeah. Anything else you guys would add? Those are great insights. No? All right. Let's dive in next. So what would you guys say would be like maybe the top one or two things that a business should be focusing or doing in the digital sort of marketing realm? And then, like, if we've got time, let's go beyond that and say, hey, beyond just digital marketing, what are the top things to pay attention to? I think it's always important. People are always wondering, like, what's the one thing, right? James Clear and all that good stuff. What would you guys say is the thing to be paying attention to, or the two things?
Well, making it simple. Do you have a Google business profile? Is it optimized? Meaning, do you have all of your information filled out on it? I think that's the first thing, because it's going to drive phone calls. Right. So if you can optimize that properly, it's going to get you set up to start getting the phone to ring if you're doing this yourself. If you have a marketing company, what would be the one things that I would be looking at there? Do we know what our cost for a new client is? And all you have to do is take your total amount spent on marketing divided by your total number of new clients, and you have your number. Right? Keep it really, really simple. And then looking at that compared to your average ticket and say, am I profitable? And if you're not, now we need to look at, okay, now you can dive deeper on the marketing side to say, okay, how can we lower this cost? Or if we're really profitable, how can we increase that cost so that we can then start driving more new leads into the business so that we can actually grow our sales? The other side to look at is on the operational side, where the leaks, where are we losing leads so that this cost is getting higher and we're not getting as many new clients through the door and booked. Those would be the first two places that I would start.
I have nothing else to say. I think that was a perfect answer. Well, it comes full circle, right? To we're talking about the beginning. Your marketing company could be great, and you could be dog shit, or your marketing company could be dog shit, and you could be great, right? How do you know that? Is understanding the nuances that go in with the data and not getting swayed by fluffy, fancy SEO reports, right? Hey, is my phone ringing? Is my job board full?
Yep.
Yeah.
What
one other thing, like on that job board full part, the other, the thing, and we learned this, we were in a mastermind, and John Maxwell was part of it, and he's talking about leadership conversations and like having this conversation with business partners, for example, right? But this can be applicable in anything. Is that if you have a tough conversation you need to have, just rip the Band-Aid off, have that tough conversation. Right. And so if this is the case, if you're looking at this in the vendor partnership and getting your data and getting your numbers and understanding that and having these conversations, well, if you're a little timid, you're a little scared to do it, it's okay. Right? Just rip the Band-Aid off, have that conversation. It's better to have that conversation now then wait several months and it's even worse for you and your business, especially coming into 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Evan, you were talking about the GMB and your Google My Business profile, or your Google Business profile, however you want to remember it, right? Forever and always. See if Google changes it again on us.
They probably will. It's Google.
Yeah, right. Some consultant, right? It's got to be paid his money, and that's what he's going to come up with, right? I think the important piece there is like that is now kind of the door to your business, right? Is what I tell my clients, right? Is like, it used to be your website back in the day, right? Before, Google Maps was a thing, it was your website, right? Well, now it's your Google Business profile. I mean, it's only something, and the number is always changing, but like, let's just make it easy. It's about 50%. Sometimes it's 30%. Sometimes it's 60% of what people will do after they go to get Google Business profile is they'll go to your website, but most people just call, right? So you got to think about that. Is like, that's almost all they see of your business, right? Is they see the number of reviews that you have. They see your star rating, right? They probably see those featured reviews there on top of it. And that is going to indicate to them whether or not they want to call you, right? They're going to base it on that. We're creatures. We have limited time. We got the kids that got to get to soccer practice. We got to make dinner, all these other kind of things, right? So we're taking in as much information as we can and making decisions as quickly as possible. So the question is like, are you even findable, right? Like, we're not talking like page one when somebody goes HVAC Dallas, right? Like, that's a totally different ballgame. But like when they do Rodrigo's HVAC, like, are they finding you, right? And that comes down to, do you have a Google Business profile? Do you have the information requisite to actually show up when somebody's Googling for your business? Because even like, let's just say you're not paying a marketing company. Let's just say that you are just doing a darn good job out there. You're getting referrals, because every business is getting referrals, right? Like, everybody says their top, influx of new clients is, 65% or 85%, depending on who you're talking to, is like referrals. Well, the referral doesn't have a business card that you handed them. They're going online and they're Googling you, and they're going to try and find you. If you are harder than like 2 to 3 clicks, they are just going to find some other HVAC contractor located near them, and Google's going to present them with plenty of options. So you just need to make sure that you're being found in that realm. And then, getting some reviews obviously makes you look like you didn't just start yesterday, right? So
yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. That's one thing that all contractors can be doing right now is reviews. Focus on it. It is incredibly important to your business. It's getting more important because Google's taking away different things that we can be doing as a marketing company to help give you a competitive edge. And so reviews are becoming increasingly more important because it's your reputation online.
Well, and here's the other thing, and maybe I'm taking away from something that we're going to end with, but later on, but like you mentioned the Google Business profiles, right? And clicking through, and they have that impression, right? What does your name say? What is your business name? That's another big part too that I think a lot of people miss the mark on. They're like, well, that's the impression, right? It's reviews. They're going to read them, and they don't really care about proximity, depending on the business, right? For services, they don't care, right? And then your name, right? What does your name say about you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the interesting thing is they don't care about proximity. Google does.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So how close you are to the searcher is going to determine whether or not your profile is going to show up when they're searching for those transactional keywords: AC repair, heat pump repair, new heat pump, that kind of a thing, right? They're looking for your service. How close you are to that searcher is going to make a difference as to whether or not you're going to show up. So setting up multiple Google Business profiles is something that you can do to help give your business a competitive edge.
Yeah. I think all of us would agree. Seek the professional advice of an actual marketer who knows what they're doing, because you can get yourself into some bad situations doing that the not appropriate way. So just FYI on that, or you can make it harder for yourself.
Well, and that's exactly it. Google's gotten smarter in terms of how they're getting those profiles verified. So you can't just do the postcard anymore. So they're not just going to send a postcard to a random address, PO box, Regis office, etc. So you can't go that route. You need an actual physical office in order to do it. And they want a video of you opening and unlocking the office, your signage up, materials in the office, a computer in the office, a phone in the office, things like that. That's what they want to see on this video. If you can't show that, you're not going to get the profile verified anyways. So
There you go. We could have done a whole video on that. So that's an awesome insight right there. Well, and I think, to your point of like getting reviews, just, I know it can be like a big hurdle for a lot of people going like, I don't even want to ask my customers or clients. Well, that's great. Make sure that you're maybe using a service, right? Or you're sending a link or something, right? That is at least putting you in front and giving them the opportunity to do that. It definitely needs to be easy, whatever it is, but realizing that that's the one thing that you have the most control over right now, out of everything else, everything that you could be doing, right? The bulk or the biggest chunk is getting those reviews, getting them frequently and getting them often, and making sure that those reviews are fresh is like the biggest thing that you have in control, right? So, obviously podcast is reputation igniter, ignite your reputation with reviews. That's a key piece. So, but let's kind of wrap up with this. Like what do you think's maybe the biggest thing that somebody should be? I mean, we kind of already talked about this, like starting out, but maybe you guys can just do, maybe 5 minutes here. We can go and say, hey, if you're 0 to 2 million, right? What should you focus on? If you're 2 to 5 million, what should you focus on? If you're 5 to 10, if you're over 10 and you're listening to this, I am very humbled and thank you for doing that. But you're probably, you've got your own in-house marketing at that point, right? So, but yeah, what would you guys say, just some low-hanging fruit or the things that maybe somebody wants to wrestle with in those different sort of sizes of business?
0 to 2, I mean, you're just starting out. So do you have your profile set up? Do you have a website set up? And if you are just starting out or you're thinking of starting your business, get those things done as fast as possible. I just talked to a contractor this morning. He's starting a new business. He just gave his 2 weeks notice 4 weeks ago. So he is in the process of setting up things to start that business. My first piece of advice, get a one-page website up as fast as possible. Get a GMB up as fast as possible so that you can start building a presence online. He's not launching his business until later on in the new year, but get that set up now. And even if the phone rings, hey, sorry, we're just not set up to set up calls yet. I've got a referral partner. Go call them instead for right now. I promise we'll be ready to go in 3 months. And then you write down that number and you call them back for a tune-up, by the way. But if someone raises their hand ever, here's a piece of advice. If someone raises their hand ever to your business and gives you their information by calling you or filling out a form, you never, ever, ever get rid of that piece of information, ever.
Yeah.
Because if they are a homeowner in your market, they've raised their hand, they said, I do have an HVAC system in my home, at some point, call them back and book a tune-up with them.
Here's the other part just on that. So sometimes people, when they answer the phone, when they say that 3-month thing, or any, like this could be any business in operation, the service area or a product, or, can you do my AC repair, or shit, right now in Canada, cold AF where we're at, can you fix my furnace, right? Like literally it's -5 Fahrenheit right now without the wind chill. So it's supposed to, Fahrenheit and Celsius are going to equal come Friday, which is -40. So it can be cold. But anyways, furnace repair, right? And so if you can't get to them, a lot of people say, oh, I'm busy, sorry, and hang up. They don't actually capture the data. So a better way to it's a quick tweak. Say, hey, what's your name? Great. Oh, cool. Just in case we get disconnected, can I get your phone number again? Best number to contact you on? I know that shows up on my screen, but I just want to be sure. Boom, write it down. Okay. If we do go forward with you, what's your email address? Oh, what area are you located in? Okay, well, actually, it turns out our next booking is a week out. Would that work for you? No, can you call somebody else? Great, thanks. Then you follow up with them like what Evan talked about. And there's a whole different strategy behind that. But since we're on that, gather their information first. Don't just tell them no.
Yeah, don't put it in a notepad either. Like ideally you've got, the CRMs are so cheap these days, like just invest in that to have all your information in somewhere other than your phone that you might drop in the toilet trying to get your kid to pee, right? Or whatever happens, right? Like that was me a couple weeks ago, right? So it's like you gotta, that is the lifeblood of your business is your contact list, right? So Correct. Love it. All right, what's next?
So yeah, make sure you've got everything set up as fast as possible. Even if you're not ready to open the doors yet, get it up, get it live so that you're not, the problem that a lot of guys make when they're starting their business is they're they're launching everything on that day, and now they need the phone to ring because they've got another technician in the office, or it's just them, either or. But you're needing to run calls now, but you're not generating anything. You needed to set everything up 3 months ago so that when it's time for you to start running and hit the ground running, you're already ahead of the game. You're not starting and waiting. So that's the first thing. Now, when you're in that $2 million stage, once you get at that $2 million mark, you're at the point where you're starting to hire leaders to oversee the rest of your team. And this is a big transition in the business. So you need to make sure that you're ready for it. So from a marketing perspective, making sure that you have the call volume necessary to fully pull you out of the field and allow your team to run those calls. Or if you're in the position where you're like, I don't want to leave the field. This is what I love doing. This is where I am the best at my abilities, is in the field. Then you need to make sure you have the proper people on your team who can run the office so that you can be out in the field and run those calls. Either or, you just need to make sure that you're mentally prepared for that, because that is a big jump.
It's funny because on the 2 to 5 and the 5 to 10 for myself, I put developing leaders under both of those. Critical thing, right? And like you think about it, I mean, you started your business, you grew from 0 to 2. You're likely, most people who start a trades business, HVAC, plumbing, whatever, you didn't start it for the sake of running a business. You started it because you wanted to work for yourself, right? You wanted to build something that you already had trades experience on. So your business experience, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way, might be lacking. And so you're looking at that, and that's where this comes in. The biggest mistake that a lot of people do is when they get, maybe the 5 to 10 range, when you start promoting people into management, is taking the best person on the tools, and now you're my service manager. Well, guess what? Probably not going to be the best person to be your service manager. Identifying the best person for management, not the best person in your organization.
Correct.
Yes. I would say 5. Are we on to 5 to 10?
Unless Evan's got something else to add.
Well, at 2 to 5, what you're really starting to do from a marketing perspective is optimization. You're doing more of what it is that's working. By the way, all marketing works. You just haven't found the right technique, tactic, communication strategy to reach those people in a way that gets them to raise their hand. But all marketing does work, otherwise it wouldn't exist. So finding out which areas are working best for you, and then how can we hone in on those and become more efficient, faster at reaching them more frequently, and creating even better offers to get them to raise their hand more. So that's really what the 2 to 5 stage is from a marketing perspective, is it's fully optimizing what it is that's working.
Love that. Because so maybe you can just share this. Do you find that different types of marketing work in different parts of the country, Canada and US in that case, right? And so it's a combination of finding out what's really resonating. And obviously, I think dialing in your offer, right? Alex Hormozy is the king of that, and helping people kind of figure out like how to offer their services in an effective, communicative way. But yeah, would you say, because I think it's so easy for somebody to be like, oh, well, we've tried that didn't work, right? But I love what you're saying. Yeah, all marketing works. Like obviously that marketing wouldn't have taken off. Nobody'd know about it if it didn't work, right? But for those people that are saying like, I've tried that doesn't work, what would you kind of say? Do you see regionality? Do you see, urban versus suburban? Anything like that maybe you could shed some light on or share some wisdom about?
Yes and no. I mean, use Yelp as an example, right? Certain parts of the country, it is far more predominant than other parts of the country. If you're in California, you're not on Yelp, like you're missing out massively, because the percentage of the population that uses it is much more, right? It's more significant. Other parts of the country, not so much. However, are there still users on it? Right? At the end of the day, you're an attention game. Wherever people's attention is, that is a potential customer of yours, you should be there. And you should try to have the biggest presence you possibly can. Social media is a great example of that. Are you creating video in your office, in your business? Are you using it as a recruiting strategy? Are you using it as a sales strategy? Most businesses aren't. This is a great way to leapfrog your competition because they're not doing it.
Yeah.
And it's free. Make it make sense, right? But
Yeah.
that's the thing, is most people won't do it because they see it as this big hurdle. Just post stuff and see what happens. We've got a client. They're a carpet installation company. Just got 12 million views on their reel last week. And it's like ASMR of a carpet install, and it's literally like sounds of carpet install. And it's them cutting the carpet, stapling the carpet. Like, that's it. That's all it is.
It's awesome.
But it blew up because you'd never know. But when you're posting content constantly, you never know what's going to hit.
I know there was it wasn't our client, somebody that was in roofing doing the video, and it was the biggest one. It was a guy. It was just literally with the nail gun, new strip, new strip, and it blew up because people just like for whatever reason gravitated to it. Like, you just don't know. Well, that's the crazy part. You just don't know.
You really don't.
No,
but it's free,
right?
Again, but at that 5 to 10 million mark, like, that's where you can hire an internal marketer. And really, I truly feel like the most important thing that you need to be hiring internally is a social media person. Someone who can come in, create that strategy for your team and your business, and then get in the truck with your team and just record what happens in the day. And that's their only job, is then creating that content, curating that content, posting it out.
Well, and I think, Evan, what you're really getting at there is like, people just want the experience before they have the experience, right? And this is how you build your reputation, right? Is through all these different channels, right? Like, and do you have a consistent image across all of these, right? Like, you know, obviously we talked about reviews and the importance of those, right? People read through those. I mean, let's be honest. You don't buy something on Amazon that has 0 reviews because you don't want to be the guinea pig, right? And then when you look at the one that's got 1,000 reviews, what do? You go to all the negative reviews, right? So, you know, quick plug, respond to your reviews, positive and negative, right? Don't be a jerk when you're responding to the negative ones. Those are a lot of gold for you. But they're trying to get a sense of who you are, how you do business before they go spend their money with you, before they go allocate time on their calendar with you, right? Social media, like you guys are talking about, is such an easy way to not be hiding behind the veil or hiding behind a phone call. Instead, it's you guys, it's real, it's what the technician's doing, it's, you know, examining like what process and procedures you have coming to the house. Like, it's such an easy way to like share in a way that reduces fear, increases trust, and differentiates you ultimately from any of your competitors, because it doesn't matter if, you know, Sam's Air has, you know, 12,000 reviews. If you've got, you know, 150 or 300 and they're like, man, I really feel like I know these guys because I watched their videos on YouTube and it's nothing special. Like, even you as the owner being like, hey, you know, we're here doing a tune-up today and, you know, some of the things I'm going to check out, right? Like, it doesn't have to be fancy. Arguably, that stuff does better than getting a fancy marketing company to come in and like put the nice B-roll in with all of your, you know, logos and stuff, right? Like, arguably that seems almost inauthentic in our world today, right? So just getting your guys. Now, you obviously want to watch the videos before you post them, because, you know, some of your technicians, you know, they share things that maybe you don't want be shared. But we've probably seen that, right? But that's what you're saying, Evan, right? Is like, this is such an easy way for you to build a relationship with them before they ever call you. And then they already inherently trust you and they're just excited. And that's like showing them who the team is and who's answering the phone. All that stuff is that's gold, man. I love it. That's great.
And that, by the way, is for 0 to 10 million to 20 million to 100
absolutely.
million.
Everyone should be doing it,
right?
5 to 10, you can pay someone,
right?
Yeah.
Well, and when I think about that 5 to 10, you know, and paying somebody, it's now okay. You've looked at 0 to 2. You've gotten, you know, the branding right. You've gotten the name right. You've got your assets set up. You're starting to build the structure. You've gotten the frame really to your house. Okay, 2 to 5. Now you're putting in, you know, the walls and the roofing and such. That's still a lot focused on digital, right? You can do community stuff too, I think, and getting outreach and getting into there, because the costs aren't as prohibitive as some of the stuff I'm going to talk to you next. But that allows you to be able to get that community outreach. That allows you to get that buy-in. But the next stuff, the 5 to 10, once you've gotten your online dialed in, you put more money onto the kitty, right? You're talking Google ads, you're talking Yelp ads, you're talking Facebook ads, those sorts of things. Now start to transition to more of the offline traditional branding type place. Think radio, think TV, think direct mail, those sorts of things. You probably even do direct mail in the 2 to 5 if you do it the right way. But here's the thing, that if you start doing those things, repetition and frequency matter. Okay, I will say that one more time. Repetition and frequency matter. Sometimes people are like, well, I did radio for 1 month and it didn't work. Well, yeah, no shit. It was 1 month, right? Give it 12 months, right? How often? I mean, I don't even listen to the radio anymore. Barely drive, work from home. But when you think about the radio, I mean, it takes on average 9 to 12 months to start to see some traction on it. Direct mail, they talk about 11 touch points into into a mailbox, right? Sometimes less, sometimes more, but on average, it's at 11, give or take, right? So some people will go, well, I did direct mail once, and while they didn't get any responses, well, yeah, no, repetition, frequency, right? Same thing with TV. Everything you do needs to have that repetition and frequency to it.
Well, and then how can you layer different strategies on top of each other within an area, within a market, so that you can get that 11 touches a little bit quicker, right? If you are planning a direct mail strategy, have you talked to your digital company to say, hey, we're going to be sending out mailers to this area. Can we make sure that we've got presence there? Okay, well, what would you like to do? Do you want to do display ads over that area on Google? Do you want to do some Facebook ads? Do you want to do some Instagram ads? Right? There are ways that you can layer your different advertising strategies to get on top of that. If you're going to do a direct mailer, maybe we sponsor the Little League team at the same time. So now we've got the banner out in the outfield and we're sending out the direct mailer in the neighborhood. Once we start getting jobs in the neighborhood, are we clover leafing the neighborhood? So we did the job at Mrs. Jones's house. We're going to the 3 doors to the left, 3 doors to the right, 3 across the street, making sure that we're passing out flyers, leaving a door hanger, knocking on the door, introducing ourselves. All of that matters. It's layering strategies on top of each other so we can make sure that we own a market. And ideally, it's your backyard, so you don't have to drive too far.
Yeah. Well, and I think to what you're talking about is being strategic about these things. Like, don't do a big push on one thing 1 month and then the next month do a big push on another thing, right? It's about building in. And anytime you're adopting or integrating one of these things into your systems, your processes, your operations, right, is making sure that becomes your new standard operating procedure. Like you're saying, if you do one house, it's like just remind the tech every time to go to the 3 houses to the left, 3 houses to the right, all that kind of stuff, so that it's just part of the processes. So you're not going, hey, let's go send a van out to so-and-so and redo what we already did. Guys, you already drove the 30 minutes over to Mrs. Smith's house. Like, make sure that while you're on site. And I know this is, I think, one of the biggest challenges that we all face with, owning a business and being an entrepreneur is getting other people to care about, our business, the reputation, as much as we do as a business owner. But I think if you can showcase, why it's important and, illustrate that you're willing to do it too, I think it goes a long way. So yeah, I love all that you guys are saying. Yeah. Thaddeus, did you have anything else?
Yeah, just in terms of, what we're talking about, right? Scaling up and scaling down. You think about, shoulder season. If you're in an industry that has shoulder season, I mean, I think of heating and cooling. Well, guess what? Big shoulder season, right? So you look at times where you're not as busy, there's not as much demand. Well, that's when you scale up some of the other traditional forms and you scale down some of your digital spend. When it gets busy again and there's demand and people are searching, that's when you scale up your digital spend and scale down some of your traditional spend. So it's not just a set it and forget it for the entirety of the 12 months. It's adjusting and tweaks along the way. What is it? An airplane, when they're flying, they're off chart, off course 98% of the time, right? But you think about that, if they didn't constantly adjust, if they were off course 1% the entire way from the time they started to the time they landed, that's like, it goes like this and it goes like this and next thing you know, they're not even in the same ballpark, right? And so making those tiny course corrections and those tiny adjustments to your budget are going to be huge to be able to continue to be on course to be able to hit your goals.
Love it. Well, any last words, guys, before we sign off here?
I mean, we could keep going and going. So,
I know that's my problem. That's I'm not going to bait you with another question, because I think just where we're at and what we know, it's just we just want to share, because there's so many little idiosyncratic pieces to what we do, all of us in the marketing world, to like help people be better. But
how's this
Evan?
for a final message? Ignorance is not bliss.
True.
Right?
True.
people say you don't know what you don't know. Well, it's true. So how can you get to the place of knowing what it is that you need to know in order to run your business the right way? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you asking questions to? Don't be afraid to be the stupidest person in the room. The second that you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And you need to surround yourself with people who are doing better than you, who are doing the things that you want to achieve. And then also make sure that you know what it is that you're going after. Because there's been many times in my life where I've gone after a goal, hit it, and then thought to myself, like, is this all there is? So being, something that's important to Thaddeus and I is, we're family men who happen to have a business, not businessmen who happen to have a family. So making sure that your goals are aligned with what it is that you want out of life is very, very, very important as well. Because it's really easy to get attracted by big numbers and then just want to put in 16-hour days, but then you get completely disconnected from what it is that matters from you. So.
Love it. That was some deep stuff to end on, but I think everybody who's listening can resonate with that, right? It's just like we just happen to channel our creative endeavors in this way, but the reason we're doing it is because of the life we're building for the people we care about in our life, and that obviously is your family, and then it's your extended family of the employees that you have, and the community that you're serving, and so absolutely love it, and so you just don't go half-cocked to any of that stuff, right? Really, who you are in one setting should be who you are in all settings. So love it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate all the insight, the wisdom. I hope people, had their notebooks out and wrote it down. If you're driving, obviously you can re-listen to the podcast anytime on any one of the different outlets that we've got. Please like, subscribe. We know it's an arduous process to leave a review, but leaving a review is a huge way to get this out. And really, I don't care. I'm not making any money from this. What this is just to get good information into the hands of other HVAC owners and plumbing owners that are out there. You guys deserve to know what the truth is about anything from digital marketing to operations to financials and budgeting and all that kind of stuff. We just want a more educated industry so that people are becoming more and more professional. And our industry is the only real barrier to entry really is your level of professionalism is really where I'm trying to, bring things in that realm. So guys, real quick though, before we sign off, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, wants to connect with either one of you, maybe they really like Evan and they can't stand you, Thaddeus, like how do they get a hold of maybe one of you and not the other, depending on what your guys' personalities are? But yeah, maybe just some places where they can get you.
Sure. And I will say this before we even drop that, is that if you're listening to this episode, you're like, man, they talked about some good things. I'm not unsure. I don't even know if I want to go with another marketing company. I just want to have a conversation, know if I know my data. I want to have a conversation, make sure I'm on the right path. We lead from a value first aspect of things. Reach out, have a conversation. It's zero obligation, right? We're not going to pitch you if you don't want it. If you're like, hey, I just need help with. Yeah, we got you, right? In terms of finding us, onpurposemedia.ca is the best and easiest place. We're both active on Facebook, so find us on Facebook, Thaddeus Tandu or Evan Hoffman. I'm the only one that shows up on Facebook when you search my name. I don't know about Evan, but that's those would be the 3 easiest places, I guess, in this case.
Awesome, and I'll just reiterate that it's onpurposemedia.ca, so don't go to .com. Thaddeus doesn't own that domain yet, right?
No, I want to buy. Not yet. So
awesome, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.